check out what I just got in the mail. The Panasonic S5, and then I got the Sigma contemporary lenses to go with it. I got the 35 and the 65. I've sort of tried the 45mm out before, so I decided not to get that one, even though it's a pretty nice focal length, but it's a 2.8, where these are f2s. So that should be fun to test out on the channel here. But really what I want to talk about is how you don't have to live in LA or New York City to make it as a filmmaker or cinematographer in today's times. And I'm going to use my own story to illustrate how this is possible because I've done it myself. I mean, I guess I've done it myself. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's talk about some stuff. So if you don't know me already, I'm a cinematographer, and I've been doing that for about 10 years now. Now I started off very small, I went to film school at a community college here, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then I transitioned into shooting commercials and music videos and stuff like that. But very early on in my career, I was able to start shooting for some big brands, and I'm still shooting for fairly big people today. Now I'm not here to brag about my career, I just want to talk about how it's possible. Give you hope, no matter where you live in the United States or in the whole world, that you can still make it even though you don't live in LA or New York City or one of those big markets like one of those two cities. Now I've worked with people like Adidas, ESPN, Google, I've shot Kevin Durant, Leon Bridges, I've worked with Dave Matthews, I shot some music videos for the Pixies. I've got to work with some fairly big name people in my career, and I'm only 32 years old and I live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Yeah. I live in the Midwest of the United States. I've never lived in LA or New York City. I lived in Dallas, Texas for a year. That's like a bigger city, but I didn't really get much work after living there. So I wouldn't really even count that in this career journey. So out of high school, I went to a community college here in Oklahoma City to go to film school. Now that seems kind of silly at first when I say I went to film school in Oklahoma City, because I mean, what kind of films are shot in Oklahoma? There have been some films shot here that you might know, like Terrence Malick's To the Wonder, and of course Twister and some stuff like that.
It's the wonder of nature, baby!
At the time, what had happened was one of the producers of the Godfather series and Apocalypse Now, Greg Fredrickson, actually moved back to Oklahoma and decided to put some money and get some grants and put some money into a community college here to help young people learn filmmaking. So I got in right at the ground floor of that. They built this huge studio, and they got some Red 1 cameras in. Yes, this was back when Red 1 cameras just came out, and they have a bunch of gear, and I was able to get my hands on gear and learn about lighting and learn about filmmaking very early on, right out of the gate, right out of high school. Now I learned some stuff there, I read some books, but I would say 90% of what I know today is something that I learned on my own, through research online, or through other people that I've worked with in the industry. So when I say film school, yes, it was school. I did go there, I learned about film, and it was great. I just got thrown into projects, I was able to work with gear and really find out what I wanted to do. At first I thought I wanted to be a director, and I learned very quickly I knew nothing about storytelling, and I knew more about imagery. But I had been shooting photos since I was like 15, so it just made sense for me to go right into cinematography. My beer is out of control today, guys, I'm sorry. I just showered, there's no oil in here, so it's just gonna look kind of wild, and that's just how it's gonna be. But the one good thing that did come out of film school was the networking. Now, one of the most important things in your career as a filmmaker is networking. You need to meet people, you need to collaborate with people, you need to work with people, and that's how you get better. You learn from them, they learn from you, and you start to do work. And that's where I was able to meet a couple friends of mine. They go by the moniker Lamar plus Nick. They are a couple directors. They've been doing crazy, wild videos since very early on. They were skateboarders and they got into video, and then they started directing music videos. And shout out to Nick and Jesse, Lamar plus Nick, because they just started their own YouTube channel, and you should go check that out. I'll have that in the description below. And that's kind of how my career started. So Greg Fredrickson himself taught me that you basically have to work in the industry, move up the ladder to get farther in your career as a filmmaker. And in order to do that, you would probably have to live in one of these major cities, LA or New York City, and work where they actually make movies. But that was never really my style. I wanted freedom to do what I wanted, and I wanted to start shooting. I didn't want to be a camera assistant for 10, 20, 30 years before becoming a DP. That just didn't make sense for me. And especially at the time, because this is when Vimeo was finally taking off. The reason that Nick and Jesse got recognized online, the reason that our work was found, was because of Vimeo. This is when Vimeo was started taking hold, and people put their work on there, and that's where you were discovered, basically. And that's how it worked out for us. Because when I interned on a major film here in Oklahoma once, it was called The Killer Inside Me. It's on Netflix. It had Jessica Alba, Casey Affleck, and it had some big stars in it. And I just did not like the vibes on the set. I was able to intern on the camera department, which was really cool, just for like a few days. They shot on film. It was a really interesting experience, but everyone was like very competitive. Everyone was kind of like out to get each other, and it was very serious, and honestly, it wasn't very much fun. Now, I'm sure that there are plenty of movies where they have fun, and I'm sure that I'll have fun when I make my first movie. But at that time, it did not make sense for me, and I just wanted the freedom to go out and shoot commercials, make good stuff, and learn and practice. And so that's exactly what I did. So as Nick and Jesse and I started making more videos, we finally started getting recognition, and we were asked to actually film for big brands outside of Oklahoma. We were asked to leave the country, leave the state. We once filmed for KFC Paris in LA. So I actually ended up flying to LA as a very young DP to shoot something for KFC when there's plenty of DPs in LA. So that's when all of this really came together for me, and I decided that I did not have to live in LA or New York City because we were already getting recognition online to fly other places, and this is what I wanted to continue doing for the rest of my career. But all that to be said, basically the meat and potatoes, where you're gonna make most of your money, I'm just gonna be real with you, for me, happens locally. It happens in my city. That's where I make most of my money. And that's basically how I have a sustainable career, because you're not gonna work for Adidas and Google every single day. You're not gonna get shoots for them all the time. Of course, that can happen, and maybe that happens easier if you do live in one of these bigger markets and you have a representation to help you get to that point. But what it comes down to is where your prep and talent meet your opportunity, and a lot of times that opportunity can just be found on the internet. And the content you've actually all been waiting for, Thea the Sheba. What up, Shishi? What, you camera shy? Thea, high five. That's not a high five, that's a stretch. But that's okay. And yes, I know the pronunciation is actually Adidas and not Adidas, but I've just been saying it that way my whole life, so that's why I said that previously. So the end takeaway here is that you need to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to post that video, post that image, post the things online that you're proud of, or maybe it's just a progression of what you've just been working on. Put yourself out there or people will not know you exist. This seems obvious, but I think it's really easy to have paralysis by analysis and basically shoot something, you know, for fun or whatever, and then you decide that's just not good enough for the internet. But the reality is when you're starting off, none of your stuff's gonna be up to par based on your taste, most likely, but maybe just your style will intrigue someone else online, like a director or a production company, and they'll want to hire you just simply because of that. At the end of the day, you want to do what makes you happy and satisfies you as a person, as a creator, as a filmmaker, and not what you've seen online, what someone else has done to make their career. Create your own path, and you'll find that you'll be happier in the long run doing this as a career. So until next time, guys, I'm Spencer Sakurai. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That goes a long way on the channel. And if you love the video, please subscribe. And until next time, guys, we'll see you.